ever met someone who deserves the day the way that you do, Joseph? It's time to get ready and the spotlight's shining down upon you, Joseph. So be fast, hold firm. I'm on my way, yeah, here it comes. And I'm delivering a wish to you, so get ready. From every peak and valley, they're telling you to get ready, 'cause here it comes. It's on the way. It's a celebration across the nation.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm kind of. But I'm Ross, you know. Jaffe is nothing more than a zombie extra, you know. Joseph Jaffe is not famous.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me undies. We undies might have sounded differently, right?
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's an after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization, and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe, and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Yes, it is time for another episode of the very increasingly not famous Joseph Jaffe. And why could I or would I be famous when I have the very famous Mr. Brian Piper in the house? Look at him. He has a full audience there. He is engaging the audience, and he even has a Jaffe coin in the audience. Brian, I had to figure out where to put my coin because this is the photo I found of you. You need more beautiful headshots online. The good news is Google does not show any mug shots of you, so apparently you're not wanted, or you have no record, shall we say, which means you're not an artist. But I found this one. I kind of liked it. I liked you in action, but I had to find a place for my coin. And so my coin is in the front row, taking notes and learning how to pay the piper. And today we will be paying the piper. But first, a little update on the Alpha Collective, on my little project, gaining a lot of bit. Can you have a lottle? I have a little bit of momentum. I'm feeling the energy. I'm feeling that we're starting to pick up a little bit of steam, and that is good. Ultimately, I've become very influenced by this idea of mile 62. Mile 62. Do you know what 62 represents? 62 actually represents the distance from the Earth to outer space, to weightlessness. And the thing that happens is, if you think about a rocket taking off, if you think about being able to lift off, you require the most energy, the most momentum, the most power, the most fuel to get off the ground. And each mile that gets you closer and closer to that magical mile 62 requires exponentially less. And so in many respects, we always think about the finish line, but what we really just need to be thinking about is taking off, just getting off the ground and then not falling back to earth. That is the momentum that is required. And in the Web3 space, even more so, it's actually more prevalent, because what really happens in the Web3 space is the FOMO kicks in. And once people, see the momentum, that's when they jump. So I'm not trying to sell 1,000 passes. I'm trying to sell, 100, 200, 250, 300 passes. And then you sit back and hopefully relax and watch the passes come in from my mouth to God's ears. But let's get on with the show. As far as Alpha Collective is concerned, I am thrilled to announce some of you don't want to see my face. You want to see Sarah Austin's face. You want to see Simon Mainwaring's face. The original We is Greater Than Me, he said it slightly differently. You want to see Andy Storch's face, and you want to see Aaron Gallagher's face. 3 of them have been previous guests on the show. They are our newest Alpha Talk speakers. We have about 15 more to announce. They're not all filled at the moment because I want to be very deliberate, in terms of recognizing and fulfilling against my mandate, which is 26 males, 26 females, or those that identify as such, and also making sure that as new voices come onto the scene, we make sure that they have a place, a space, and a podium in the Alpha Collective. There is also going to be a free mint. When will it happen? You know what? I have absolutely no idea. And if I did, I would tell you. But it's going to happen soonish. Not today, and maybe not tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow, but probably not tomorrow. But here's the thing. Free mint, if you are a member, you will get 1 airdropped into your wallet. And if not, maximum 1 per wallet. It is an opportunity, first of all, to witness and be a part of a free mint for a B2B project, which is the first of its kind, a free mint with utility, which, believe it or not, is the first of its kind, and a free mint that actually acts as a freemium model for Web3. So limited access, entry-level access, with obviously the opportunity to upgrade or level up, but you can absolutely still be a part of this project without having to pay. And it helps me fulfill on my agenda. You know, my agenda was that this would be an exclusive but not excluding community. And this is how to do it. One of the ways that we don't exclude, I should mention as well, if you want to get access to the free mint, you can do it one of 3 ways. One is join the Discord, discord.gg/Alpha Collective. 2 is follow Alpha's Gonna Make It, Alpha GMI on Twitter. And 3 is sign up for email at alphacollective.xyz. The people that do all 3 will have an opportunity to win a full membership pass, which currently sells at $2,500 fiat, which is credit card, or the ability to do that through 1 ETH. That's the crypto price right now, 1 ETH. So there's a pretty significant saving. Now, one of the ways that we promote this idea of exclusive but not excluding is through our collective cafe. For the last 4 weeks, every single Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we actually get together and we talk about a whole bunch of things. We manifest, we focus on hope, positivity, and optimism. We focus on productivity. We focus on how you can win at the business of Web3. In fact, today, an amazing conversation that was absolutely 1000% inspired by yesterday's guest, Benny Salas. This concept of intentional ignorance, that sometimes it actually pays, or we need to intentionally be ignorant, not know all the facts, not be jaded by the baggage, by the way things have always been done, the status quo, even best practices. Sometimes we need to be able to go into something like a child, curious, oblivious, innocent, with the ability to dream, to dare to dream, to take risks. That's the concept of intentional ignorance. And we just riffed on it so beautifully today in coffee. So if you want to be inspired in the morning, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern, hell, I mean, it kind of works even if you're on the West Coast, if you're in Europe, an opportunity to either get your day started on the front foot, or even if you're in Europe, over lunch, etc. I hope you will join us. We're also writing a book together called Forever Changed, my 6th book. And, if you want to be a part of this book, you can actually be a part of this book. You can write a vignette. You've just got to show up at coffee. We'll show you how to do it. But we're looking, quite frankly, there's no quite or frankly. We're looking for about 14 or 15 people to tell their forever change story, their pandemic story, how they changed or didn't change or resisted change or, wanted to change or were too afraid to change or change, but then fell back. Every story is a valid story because at the end of the day, it's your story, and your story is the most important story in the world. What you're looking at, by the way, is the cover of the book that was designed by previous guest NFT artist Ali Sabet. It's probably going to end up being an NFT. And one of the cool things about this book is that all people who contribute to the book and readers who buy the book will actually get royalties in perpetuity. So it might be the first book of its kind to actually do something like that. So I'm having a lot of fun. Whether I'm making money or not, time will tell, but I'm having a lot of fun. And now, speaking of fun, it's time for the seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called Life Smarts. Now, how did I come up with this idea? I came up with this idea inspired by Mr. Brian Piper. I came up with this idea because he wanted to talk about college. And I thought to myself, well, the college debate generally talks about, there's always the debate about book smarts versus street smarts. The ability to say, what is college? Why is college? Why is it important? Is it important anymore? Do you need college? I'm not sure that you do, to be honest with you. But at the same time, what I've realized, I've just come back, taking my daughter to St. Louis, back to college. And what you realize is sometimes the actual classes themselves are not the be all and end all. It's the entire experience. It's the connections. It's the growth. It's, getting your first apartment off campus filled with roaches and having to clean it. It's joining a sorority or Greek life. It's all of the above. All of the above is actually what college is about. But there is an extra part as well, which is the stuff, my son is doing business statistics in Miami. And I said to him, I majored in applied business statistics and I don't remember a damn thing about the course. I don't even know what an applied business statistic is. What is a business? Maybe Brian knows what a business statistic is. One of the things I've done as an adjunct professor is I tell my students when something is I say, pay attention to what I'm about to say. You will use this in your life. This isn't a framework of crisis management or the 4 steps of restitution, resolution, whatever the 4 R's are. I'm teaching it in a few weeks. I better know what the 4 R's are. But for the most part, when I see something, when I see a book smart that can become a street smart, that to me is a life smart. And maybe what we need to do is figure out that bridge between the resolution, between the book smart and the street smart. That becomes a life smart. And you better damn well believe that an adjunct professor or a tenured professor can teach that as well. Like Brian Piper, he can teach us many things, and he will be on the show in a moment. But first, a little shout out to Lubna Zaru. Looking forward to this conversation with Brian Piper. Lubna is our Flow Tuesdays maven, or is it maveness? But she is an integral part of the show. And I look forward to Tuesdays, even when I don't have a show, because I know that when Joe is doing a show or not doing a show, I'm going to have Lubna Zaro giving me a little bit of flow. And on that really dad jokey punny area, it's time to bring on Mr. Brian Piper. Brian Piper, the Piper himself, is an author, speaker, and consultant. Brian has been optimizing content since 1996. He's the founder of the Piper Coin, which powers a community focused on content optimization and Web3 education. He is on the board of the Higher Education Web Professionals Association and a member of the Ed3 DAO. Is it Eddie DAO? The Ed3 DAO, which is focused on educating educators about Web3. I want to be educated, so I want to bring him on. Mr. Brian Piper, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joseph. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the show, and let's flow, says Lubna Zaro.
So great to see Lubna.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to have her, in the audience. One of the things, speaking of content strategy, that I've been playing with, that I'm going to be experimenting with, is actually continuing to focus on live, but actually bringing that into a smaller group, maybe the Jaffe coin holders, and then publishing what was once live episode with a premiere on YouTube. And so I like that idea. You know why? Because if there were 50,000 comments coming in right now, I wouldn't be able to see Lubna's. and there isn't a piece of technology. Hint, note to anyone that wants to create that technology, create the technology. But until they do, I don't want to lose the intimacy.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Brian Piper, we want to know about you. You've watched the show. You know what's coming. You know that all these deep, dark secrets about your life are about to fly out at us. And I wonder what the first one is going to be. Let me peek into my crystal ball. And this one's a scathing rebuke. This is, I mean, here, can you believe it? This man has been studying martial arts for 35 plus years, and he has 2 black belts. Why does anybody need 2 black belts? Is one black belt to like a backup in case the other black belt falls down or your pants fall down?
Yeah, if you lose one, you have to have another one.
Is that really the reason? You can't just order one, get like three for 2 or something like that.
No, I've always been fascinated with learning new things. And so going from one style, one technique, one organization to another, you start back over at the bottom again. So it's always great being a student.
So wait, you go from black belt to white belt again, and you go through that process?
That is correct.
And you're like bullying like 8-year-old kids?
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm going to start it soon. All right. So he's a martial artist and a sadist as well. What else did we find out about him? He allegedly, we're going to say allegedly so we don't get sued here, but uses his martial arts on rabbits. No, he doesn't. He grew up on a rabbit farm in Dog Patch, Arkansas. Now, first of all, the irony, why is it called Dog Patch and not Rabbit Patch? And what does it mean to grow up on a rabbit farm?
Well, Dog Patch existed before the rabbit farm started. So we didn't really have anything to do with the naming. And yeah, we raised rabbits all through my youth. Lived on a rabbit farm with over 1,000 rabbits that they would come and take away in the rabbit truck every couple months.
I do not want to ask what became of the rabbits, but moment of silence for the rabbits. Okay, thank you for being with us through that. But here is, we go from on the ground with rabbits to rabid, or it's kind of a segue to being 30,000 feet in the air. Mr. Brian Piper, I have a bit of beef with you, and I think you know exactly what the beef is. You've been skydiving for 30 plus years and teaching others for 25 plus years, and you laid down the gauntlet. You challenged me at Joe Pulizzi's CEX conference to go skydiving with you. I psyched myself up, arrived ready to do it, and then you just stood me up.
Well, it wasn't me, it was the FAA. They were in the process of renewing my tandem certificate so that I could jump with people strapped to me. So they hadn't come through with it yet, and so now we're all good. So next time we're together, Joseph, we'll definitely make a trip out of it.
I certainly was, I'm not going to lie, very, very relieved and very, very frightened, I should say. But so let's talk about, I always love to find some meaning in the fun facts. The fear, right? There's fear of the unknown. There's fear of trying new things. There's fear of publishing a book. There's fear of launching a coin. And I have to imagine that skydiving has played a role in you controlling, mastering, conquering your fear, but also dealing with so many people that come through debilitated, afraid, clinging onto the pole, and or maybe just having fearful moments in their life. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But before we do, just so that people don't think that this is all Photoshop and retouching, here's a little clip.
I did my best to write and sing. You know I wouldn't change a thing. With the benefit of hindsight, I might not have had the fist fight that night. I made a family, I made friends, made a mess but made amends. I even made a little hot white sunlight.
Now, by the way, Brian was not in that video. It was Brian singing the song. That really did sound like you, by the way. You've got a great voice.
No, I don't.
And we won't ask you to sing. What an amazing video. I'm assuming you were in there somewhere.
I had the camera on for all of those shots. So yes.
Incredible. So now, in context of everyone feeling liberated, going, yeah, I'll never do that. Let's chat about fear, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that kind of hopefully softball for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And teaching people how to jump out of a plane and strapping people to you and jumping out of a plane with them definitely puts you face to face with not only your own fear, but also with other people's fears, and figuring out different mechanisms, different ways to help them break through and get past those without the fear being overwhelming or stopping you from taking these actions. And it applies, the same methodology that you use to teach somebody how to jump out of a plane. It's the same methodology you use to teach somebody how to become a creator, or how to start publishing their content out for the world to see, or to create their own coin. And basically, it's just breaking it down. You break it down into the individual steps, and you tell the people very transparently and very upfront what's going to be happening, so they know what to expect. You tell them, we're going to strap ourselves together, and then we're going to take steps towards the door, and you prepare them one move after another. So they're not thinking about the actual stepping out of the door. They're just thinking about the next step, just the next thing they have to do. And it's the same process when you're becoming a creator or writing a book. You can't think about the entire scope of writing a whole book. Just think about one chapter at a time, one paragraph at a time, one sentence at a time. You just have to break it down into manageable chunks.
I mean, that is a money shot. That is, the softball followed up with a slam dunk. It's such a great point, and it actually makes me think of I don't have a debilitating fear of heights, but I have a fear of heights. And I would do it, but I marvel at the fact that I could right now, in let's say a 12-inch line, like the concept of a wall, I could easily just walk in a straight line, even with my eyes closed. But you put that wall 100 stories up, and I would be lying there with my legs on either side of the wall and my hands clinging for dear life. And I was in London with my son recently, and we did I guess abseiling is the word, like down the side of the stadium of the team that I support, Tottenham Hotspur. And I couldn't believe I did it, but that's what they did. Now I realize that they broke it down. They said, you're going to put your right foot to the right, feel the railing. That's what you got to do. Now you're going to do this. And by breaking it down into steps, it suddenly got me to the point where they said, now you just sit down. And once you sat down and felt the weight and the give, and you're like, oh, wait a second, it's like sitting in a chair. I can do this. And the next thing, I was going down the side of the stadium.
Yeah, and so much of it is trust. You have to trust the people that are teaching you. You have to trust the equipment that you're using. And when you start out and you first enter for the first time, you're trying this, you don't know any of that. You don't know who these people are. You don't know anything about the equipment. So you're taking a lot on as an instructor to communicate all these, the solidity of the systems and the experience that you're bringing to it. But it takes a lot as a new person trying this out to establish that level of trust. And it's an incredibly brave thing to do.
Like, I mean, again, it comes down to the concept of intentional ignorance. The less you know, sometimes the better, right? But I would never call it with one of my guests. But I was going to say, there's got to be a bit of a difference, Mr. Brian Piper, between falling out of an aeroplane or hurtling to your death in terms of trust. And go ahead and write a LinkedIn post or go live on Clubhouse or whatever the case may be. It's another softball. You talk about trust and the equipment, etc. How are they different, or how are they in fact the same? You can call, wait for it. I was waiting for you to say the word. No, but I imagine, that to some people, literally, going opening up a room in Clubhouse is as scary as jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, well, they say like the number one fear is fear of public speaking. And that putting yourself out there in front of an audience that you don't have any control over how they're going to react, you don't have any control over how they're going to interpret what you say. That's an incredibly scary thing to do. And, even when I go to present at a conference or something, before I get up on stage, I feel all those nerves. They're the same nerves that you feel before you're getting ready to step out of an airplane. And you just have to tell yourself, I can do this. I've practiced, I've rehearsed, I've gone through the steps, I've broken it down. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And that's what you take out with you. And it's the same whether you're skydiving or presenting in public or in a clubhouse room or posting on LinkedIn. Now, it may be a little higher level of fear or a lower level of fear because the immediacy, the impact, so to speak, is different between the consequences of those two different actions. But, if you post something horrible on LinkedIn and it destroys your career, that could be, effectively as brutal as jumping out of a plane and that not going well.
That is very true, and we know it's happened to many people. With those kinds of posts, and sometimes, oftentimes it's been incredible to see the damage that has been caused by tweets, whether they're drunk tweets or sometimes just negligent or careless tweets, or sometimes people posting on a personal account instead of their company's account. Isn't it amazing how much damage can be done? And I suppose the flip side, Brian, which is if so much damage can be done in 240 characters odd, imagine how much good can be done in those same characters.
Absolutely.
Seems like a little another softball laying up for the power of content strategy. But before we do that, I really loved this whole conversation and this analogy. Benny Salas yesterday on the show said it's not so much a fear of public speaking as it is a fear of the public speaking.
Exactly.
And it really does come down to putting yourself out there. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because 99% of all short putts never go in the hole. So what does it take to overcome those butterflies and put yourself out there? What, now that you've launched a coin and a book, etc., what did you find, for example, that was, the anxiety, the fear that proved to be, just hype or an exaggeration, or the opposite, which is something that was a lot worse, but you just didn't realize it going into it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And a lot of the times you go into a lot of these projects with an idea in your head of what the worst part is going to be or what the potential downside could be. And it's the same thing as facing fear or facing challenges, taking on challenges in any aspect of your life. The whole picture, the big picture can be overwhelming. And sometimes you just have to get that perspective, that 10,000 foot view, so to speak. But you have to pull back and you have to look from a high level and break it down, into individual parts, and you face those individual parts one at a time. And when it starts looking too overwhelming, you refocus and you reframe and you reestablish that flow that Lubna always talks about. And you really just don't look at anything else. I also rock climb. And one of the things when you're rock climbing is you can't look at the entire wall that you're on, or you're going to get overwhelmed by it. You just look at the next move, just one step at a time, one new hold at a time, and trust that your equipment is there, that your experience is there to back you up and support you, and that you're going to eventually get to the top.
And get to the top you will. We are with Mr. Brian Piper. He's the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester, just up the road from me, more or less. Guest number 396. And even though we're going to talk about his first book today, I want you to mark your calendars, because I've just given him his second book. His second book will be called Skydive Marketing. I love to do this as well, but there is so much richness and analogy today with the, even going back to Brian, zooming out, getting perspective. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? How do you eat a rabbit? No, I mean, but that was a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, just a great kind of tee up for this conversation, Brian. And thank you for sharing some of your skydiving marketing pearls of wisdom. We will wait for the book to be launched, where we hear a little bit more. But let's get into the topic. Skydive content, Lubna says. So why not? Skydive strategy, content strategy, SCS. I don't know. We'll stop there. We're here to talk about the book. We're here to talk about time. We're here to talk about education. But let's begin with the book. Let's begin with the fact that this guy Joe Pulizzi. What do we know about him? He's a fly by night. I think he's published this. This was probably not his first book. He loves the color orange. He's been on the show multiple times. And there you are with him. You're propping him up. Actually, without Brian Piper underneath Joe Pulizzi, he would just, he would not be as epic. Tell us about how the two of you came to collaborate, because one thing that is so important in this world, when we talk about we is greater than me, when we talk about community, we're talking about ultimately helping one another or collaborating. So how did this collaboration happen?
Well, it all started when I was an unhappy, unsatisfied website developer and not a very talented website developer. So they ended up sticking me on doing web positioning at the time, which is now SEO, which is where I got into content optimization. And so I did that for years until I read the first edition of Epic Content Marketing. And within a week of reading that, I went down to the VP of marketing at the company I was working at. And I said, you need to hire me to do your digital marketing. And she did. She gave me a chance. And so that got me into my current job at the University of Rochester. And the first year that I started working there, 2017, they sent me to Content Marketing World, where I tracked down Joe and I took a selfie with him and I thanked him for writing that book and told him that it changed my career path. And now I'm very happy in my career. And so then I did that every year that I went to Content Marketing World. I stalked him and I accosted him and I took a picture with him and I thanked him. And then I started presenting. I started going on the presentation circuit. So I was presenting at Content Marketing World 2 years ago virtually, and then last year in person. And since it was a much smaller group because of COVID, I spent a lot more time with Joe. We talked a lot more. And I kept saying, well, when are you going to do a second edition of Epic Content Marketing? It still has Google Plus in there and it's still got a bunch of old case studies. I was like, the content is so good, it really should be updated. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm not sure. And then 2 weeks later, we were in a book club Slack room for Content Marketing Institute. And he was in there talking about Content Inc., his last second edition book. And so I asked him in the chat, I said, when are you going to do a second edition of Epic Content? You know what an impact that book had on me. And he said, co-author it with me. And I said, yes, I absolutely will. And that was history. So now the book is going to change my life again.
Amazing. The crowd has gone wild. And, Lubna said it best, talk about a super fan. But, for me, this amazing story, I mean, and I know both of you, I've come to know you this year in particular, it is exactly what you said before, the concept of pulling back. You zoomed out, you went in for this was the long game, as Dory Clark would say. You didn't even have an idea. And I think that's another important point. You don't always have to be premeditated. You don't always have to know what the goal is. But if you just embrace the journey and if you have the patience, surely good things will follow. And that's exactly what happened to you. What a wonderful story.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, expressing your gratitude for something that someone else has done for you or some benefit that you've gotten from someone else goes so far. Just to let them know this was very impactful for me. It's changed my life. Thank you. I said that every year for many years while I was going to the event. And eventually you know, it made enough of an impact that he remembered me, and we ended up getting into a conversation. And actually, it was last year at Content Marketing World that he threw me down the Web3 rabbit hole by asking me what I knew about NFTs, and it's been a drinking from a fire hose ever since.
Right, and you gave him the only honest response, which is, I don't have a damn clue what the hell's going on, and still I don't, and still I don't, and still you don't. No, I'm just kidding. You know a lot. I mean, we're, you know, the one thing I even said in our coffee this morning is, you know, we're all kind of OGs in Web3, but we also only have 1 year of experience. Like everyone has 1 year of experience for the most part. And that's kind of interesting, because when we think about, you know, tenured marketers and thought leaders and authors, we can talk about, you know, I remember carbon paper, and I remember, you know, whiteout and etc. But here, everyone is kind of like on the same playing field, and that's like a very, very cool pioneering moment to like savor and celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different facets to Web3 and so many different technologies, any one of which you could dive down into deep holes and really leverage all sorts of new opportunities within any one of these different technologies. So just trying to keep up with the pace of everything. It's fantastic. I love it as a lifelong learner. It's just a new opportunity to grow and develop and learn new things and find new opportunities and experiences.
Well, let's talk about, you know, content marketing, and not just content marketing, but epic content marketing, and not just epic content marketing. It's like a tongue twister, but how to, you know, get the most out of your content and build a community in Web3. So this is very specific and very contextual and very relevant. We're talking about content marketing. Maybe define that in terms of what is what is traditional or even content marketing in a digital environment, and then make the connection to how it can be used, or what's different, what's the same that can actually help people build these kinds of sustainable communities that are growing and thriving and scaling and engaging and effecting change.
Yeah, I mean, so content marketing is basically, instead of selling things the traditional way with traditional marketing, where you tout the benefits of your product or you're pushing out messages to a specific audience, trying to get them to buy, you're telling stories, you're sharing information, you're educating. And when I first started seeing this and understanding this idea and the power of just being an expert, providing information to people just to help them answer questions that they have. Now you're really establishing that trust. You're really connecting with people, and they're starting to see you as someone that they can go to, a resource that they can count on and rely on, because you understand this particular field, whatever niche it is that you're providing information on. And that's a great way to really start building a smaller community, to grow a group of people who trust you, who rely on you, who count on you, who share you with their friends and tell other people about you and what you're offering. And the opportunities that Web3 brings into this are all sorts of new ways to build communities, ways to incentivize communities, ways to reward your communities, ways to co-create and co-own things with your communities, opportunities that we haven't had in the past, at least not in easy ways that we could manage and that we could fund and reward and give back as much as we get from our communities. So, yeah, content marketing at its core is telling stories and sharing information that eventually gets the user to take an action because they trust you and they rely on you. And so it ties right into building communities, building strong super fans, um, using Web3 technologies, using AI technologies. So the first 2/3 of the book is really the same content from 10 years ago. We just updated the case studies, the numbers, the examples. And then the last third of the book is all new, all about community and super fans, Web3, AI, and just the future of content marketing.
I was thinking as you were talking that the actual phrase content marketing is kind of like social media for me. And I'll explain to you what I mean. I always say social is, the two of us grabbing a beer like we did in Phoenix. It's water. Without water, we die. We dehydrate, even when we're intermittent fasting, as we were discussing on Instagram earlier. Media comes from the word medium, neither rare nor well done. It is the selling part. It's the oil. It's the snake oil. And we put oil and water together and we expect it to mix, and it doesn't, or it shouldn't. Content marketing is kind of like the same. Marketing has a bad rep. Marketing is maligned. Marketing is changing. Marketing is evolving. Marketing is the oil, right? Especially when it comes to selling. But content is different. Content is, I've always looked and said, why people love watching ads for movies? Because it doesn't feel like an ad. You're looking at a trailer for a movie. It is, in fact, an ad. But because it's like, oh, the new Avengers trailer, you're like, gimme, gimme, gimme. Give me 60 seconds. Give me 2 minutes. So it's interesting, content marketing, like social media. It is a compound phrase, but filled with contradiction and oxymoron, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, moving forward and hearing from all sorts of different content marketing experts that we interviewed and talked to during the writing of the book and getting their predictions on the future of content marketing, so many of them said that it's not going to be marketing as we think of it. It's going to be an experience. It's going to be figuring out how to bring your user into your story and into your narrative so that then they get inspired to support you, to promote you, to purchase from you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for people that are watching, that's another money shot, which is to realize that marketing is changing and content marketing is hopefully changing marketing for the better. Give me one or two of these, interesting pieces of insight in terms of how content marketing can help build strong, nurtured, healthy communities in Web3, or actual Web3 techniques now that are working, that are new to content marketing.
Yeah, so let's start with tokens. So the idea that you can create, as you have with Jaffe Coin, you can create your own economies, these micro economies, where the strength of your community, as your community grows, it increases the strength of your coin. The coin only has the value that your community gives to it. So if it's valuable within your community, if you can use it to buy and sell assets within your community, if you can use it to exchange for services within your community, then you don't have to, involve a third party to figure out how to use fiat to make a payment or to do memberships. And that whole idea of everybody joining in together and everybody being part of this economy, this new system, it's an entirely different dynamic than you get with a membership site, because a membership is very transactional. You go in every month, you pay, you expect to get that value out of the community every month. If you don't feel like you got enough, then you feel like you were shorted. If if your payment doesn't go through because your credit card expired, then you have to reevaluate whether or not you want to continue that membership. And at the end of the day, it feels like you're constantly at war with your community members, where you want them to make sure that they feel the value. They want to make sure that they're getting their money's worth out of it. And in this hold economy, you purchase when you come in, and as long as you hold that certain amount of coin, you get all the benefits. You get the rewards, you get the networking, you get the access to the head of the community. And then when you're done, or when you're not getting the value anymore, you sell those coins back and you leave. It's like coming in and going out with, either the same money investment or maybe a little lower or maybe a little higher, but you don't feel that transactional dynamic every month, every year, where now you feel like you're owed, or now you feel like you're wasting your money or you're wasting your time, because you're just in there because you're a part of this community, you're a part of this group, you're a part of this economy.
I really love this concept of, as and I'm putting clearly like exclusively my marketing hat on here. This concept of war. It's a very original thought, this idea of we're constantly at war. There's all these tensions and frictions between us and our customers. Specifically, did we deliver the value? You know, even as a consultant, the concept of a retainer. It's the world's greatest way to get paid, to be on retainer, to have recurring revenue. But if your client doesn't use it, even if it's all on them, it's all on them, then there's that resentment, that natural resentment. And for me, like whether it's the token, holding a token, or buying the NFT, it is the secondary market. It is the buying and selling that says when you're done, the necessary ending, move on, and hopefully everyone's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's benefited from it.
So I think people need to focus a little bit on that. Maybe your next book is going to be called War and Peace. I don't know.
Might have already been done.
Damn. How about War and Piper?
Oh, there you go. I like that.
That's your third book as well. It is Wednesday today. It is Wellness Wednesday. Whitney Lauritsen is our wellness expert. She has the Well coin as well. So all these coin holders are together. Let's hear what she has to say today.
Over the past 4 episodes of Wellness Wednesday, I've shared some key takeaways, some lessons that I learned during a 6-day retreat across 7 days in Costa Rica. One of those days was during some travel. And each day I wrote down what was coming up for me in this journal. And this is from day 5. It's interesting to contrast this to the previous days. So if you haven't watched those episodes yet, I encourage you to go check them out. Here, I was really just writing down what I did. Actually, it feels fun to share because these are things that bring me great joy. So as I read these out loud, I'm curious, do these things bring you joy as well? Do you want to do them more often? Can you schedule them in your day? Can you create vacations around things like this? For me, being in Costa Rica during rainy season was absolutely incredible. I find the rain to be very therapeutic. I live in Los Angeles and it rarely rains here. So going somewhere else where I could experience different weather was absolutely wonderful. Can you do the same thing? Do you enjoy the rain or do you prefer the sun that I get constantly in LA? The other thing was reflecting on memories of reading books. And summers I spent going to the library and reading a new book at least once a week. And during this retreat, I was thinking about how I really want to read more fictional book. I spend so much time reading nonfiction. So how can we do things differently? How can we look back on the past? How can we bring in things that used to bring us so much joy that maybe we forgot about? I was also, of course, appreciating the ocean breeze and the tropical weather, and that was bringing up memories from my childhood, my teens, anytime younger than me where I've done that and how wonderful it felt. I almost forgot about it. And even though I live in LA where we do have the ocean breeze, it's just not quite the same as Costa Rica. So when we go to new places, they can bring up things that we forgot about ourselves. And I just started writing all these memories, and I slept in, I spent more time at the beach and really just savored, which is another word that I've used to describe this experience, but savoring, prioritizing, recalling, getting back in touch, even with my younger self, felt absolutely amazing. So maybe I've inspired you to do the same too, whether it's on a retreat or creating a special vacation or experience for yourself in which you can tap back in.
Well, I was looking at the comments and wait, we got a comment from Content Optimization with Brian Piper that said, Whitney is great. Always get a great perspective listening to her. Wait a second. Lubna gets joy from reading books. What gives you joy, Mr. Brian Piper?
Oh, I get joy from all sorts of different things. My spending time with my family. My wife and I have 6 kids between us, so it's always fantastic to spend time with them and bond with them. And actually, my daughter is coming out to pack parachutes all weekend with me, so that'll be exciting.
We have a very special sound effect for 6 kids. Just kidding. But that's amazing. That's amazing. And the concept, for me, you are a very joyous person. There is a spring in your step. You're always smiling. You're always happy. And it doesn't feel like it's not a mask, it's not a facade, it's not an act. You can hear it in your voice as well. It's just, besides the things you spoke about, what keeps you happy during the trying, challenging times? How do you maintain that kind of approach?
It's all about keeping perspective, Joseph, and realizing that we're here for a limited amount of time, and to spend any of that time being depressed or unhappy or dissatisfied it's just a waste. It's unhealthy for yourself mentally and physically. And every situation that I've been in, even the horrible, stressful situations, I try to remember that at least I'm experiencing it, at least I'm here, at least I'm participating, and I can take action to change the situations. So it's all that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and if that fails, then just eat some sushi.
Sushi.
Um, uh, David, he said, suffer fools pursuing happiness or else. There you go. Absolutely. Now, I want to say as well, when we talk about perspective, right? When we talk about zooming out, I mean, I remember my first checkbook from Fleet Bank, which then became Bank of America, was that it said, life is too short to buy green bananas, or maybe it was to eat green bananas. Get the yellow bananas, don't get the green bananas. Or I suppose you could buy the green bananas and wait for them to, maybe it was eating the yellow bananas, but just, or just stay away from bananas. I don't
A
know.
lot of carbs in bananas.
Exactly. Now, there are two things that I want to make sure that we touch on before our time is up, and the first is time. The first is time. The fact that it was interesting because you drew a connection, the importance of content optimization in all of our lives, and the value of time. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, so we all are here for a limited amount of time. We all have limited efforts that we can put into lots of different activities. So if you're putting out content, let's say you're writing blogs, you're on YouTube, you're doing reels, you're doing TikToks, and you're spreading your energy out through all of those different things, it's important to be able to look at what's working and then focus your time on what's working. Don't spend your time, your valuable time, on things that aren't doing anything for you, that aren't presenting you with new opportunities or new success. So optimizing the content that you already have, that's already out there, that's already performing, is way less time intensive than creating new content, than making all sorts of new things for all these different channels. And if you are making things for all these different channels, figure out which ones are really working. Look for which ones are actually driving traffic to your website, actually making people buy things from you, actually converting those things. And those are the things that you want to focus on. That's where you want to spend your time.
I really want to emphasize that point, because when Joe was on the show, he spoke about cutting or culling, or being able to reduce the number of distribution outlets or content events. And I think the interesting build on that is this idea that you can become a time traveler, you can bend time, you can be the Doctor Strange, you could be the Benedict Cumberbatch of Web3, Mr. Piper. That you actually get back time that you can use either to be more productive elsewhere, or to give back to to your 6 kids. And so I love that kind of nuance, because it's an important one.
Yeah, and it's the most important asset that we have is time. It's the most limited asset that we have, and you can't make more of it, but you can certainly optimize what you do have.
So we've spoken about content strategy, epic content strategy, and content marketing, the Web3 component. But let's make sure that we actually now bring in one more piece of the puzzle. And I alluded to it with Life Smarts, How can Web3 technologies actually help solve problems in education? God knows there are a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it ranges from problems in elementary education all the way up through higher education and even lifelong education. And there are different techniques, different tactics that Web3 reveals, that Web3 allows for that we didn't have before. So the ability to issue certificates or diplomas or no, validation of courses completed or of activities taken or of groups that you were in. All of those could exist as NFTs in a wallet that you would collect as you continue your lifelong education. You do a new online course, you go to a program at a university or even in high school, you get an NFT in your wallet that signifies that you completed that. You have this level of knowledge, and then when you go to get a job, you don't have to make up a resume where you maybe don't completely authentically represent everything that you have done. And the job seeker, the employees who are looking at your resume can validate all of those credentials that you have, and they can test your knowledge by looking at what you're presenting in your digital wallet. So that's just one aspect of how we might change education is by these, certifications and completion tracking. But what about tokenizing education, where you get rewards as you're going through your education process, and then at the end you can use those rewards for, either continuing on to college courses or getting, vocational training. Then you can, the based on the amount of effort and the quality of the effort that you put in, you're rewarded based on that. So especially the youth today loves gamifying. They love this reward system. They love recognition. So being able to put that all publicly out on the blockchain and then use that to incentivize them to educate themselves, to learn things, and not even necessarily, the traditional, math, English, science courses that we have, but allowing them to branch out and go explore knowledge, transfer wherever they want to get it, whether it's, consuming YouTube videos, or once they get a certain amount of content that they've consumed, then they can level up in that particular skill. So there's a lot of different ways that, and that's just blockchain and tokens. What, we start talking about metaverse and the way that that can be used for education, and different ways that Web3 can democratize education. So instead of having 6,000 students on a university campus paying $50,000 a year, you have 6 million students around the world paying $5 a year, or being subsidized by other companies who are investing in this global learning opportunity, so that then they have access to all these people who are learning these skills who could then come and work for them. So I think there's a huge potential in education and in the education market for utilizing this technology to make some big changes.
I absolutely love this conversation. I'm also looking at the comments, which are hysterical. By the way, we've got Elevate Experiences saying I'm freestyle rapping on top of Brian dropping knowledge. We we've got. I recognize that Billy is freestyle rapping as the, but they're also apparently. Watching this in I guess on, is it streaming into Clubhouse? Is that what's going on? So Lubna and Billy are freestyle rapping. There's a lag as well. We've got David Lovitz who's saying John and Jaffe Kennedy, and my personal favorite, Joseph Jefferson. I love that. That is going to be my new creator name. Joseph Jefferson. I love it. I love it. I didn't even know you could.
Maybe Joseph Jefferson is famous.
No, never famous. But Brian, gamifying education is so flipping awesome. I've been playing with doing some stuff with my coin with my NYU students. So what I do now, just like I put it's not going to work at the moment because it's only live from 1 to 2, but just like I put the QR code up where you get free Jaffe coin, that's how I'm taking attendance now. I'm using a QR code. So, and then they get a little bit of Jaffe coin as well. So rather than go down the list, etc., it's just, the QR code is live from, the duration of the class. You can't cheat. And then what I want to start doing is giving a little bit of bonus coin for what I would call the MVP of the class, or someone that brings something new or drops a little bit of knowledge or brings a case study as well. So why wouldn't educators as well get in on the act and innovate? Even if the institutions are not quite ready, educators can actually have a lot of fun with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the DAO that I'm a part of, the Ed3 DAO, their whole mission is to educate educators on Web3 technologies, because it's the educators who are going to share this with the students, and they're the ones that are going to pass that knowledge on. It's not the institutional, management or the administration that's going to be doing that. It's actually the educators who are going to be transmitting that knowledge.
Teach the teachers. And I've also learned, going through my certification by the way, just two interesting tidbits. The last project that I did with Evolution, which was my previous company, was actually with Pearson Education, focusing on certification using blockchain. And the interesting thing is, this was 3.5 years ago they were starting to dabble in that area. But it was fascinating to me. Even when you think about certification with respect to, let's say, a medical equipment or industrial technology, if that certification needs to be renewed or if there's new training, when it's on the blockchain, it can all be done absolutely automatically. And that just becomes the seamless process. And I was just blown away by the antiquated, there were 2 copies of the original. One is in a vault, one of them the actual holder has, and it just became seriously, is this archaic to go and verify that in fact the certificate is authentic?
Yeah, and Pearson just announced that they're going to be selling their textbooks as NFTs now.
It's all because of me. No,
It's
I
you.
don't know.
It's you, Joseph.
I don't know. They probably they probably ignored what I was trying to help them with. But one person you cannot ignore is Mr. Brian Piper, and another person you can't ignore is the person that said our quote of the day. And our quote of the day for you, Mr. Piper, is: "Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose." What a great way to sum up this whole concept about fear, about putting yourself out there, about daring to dream, about failing, about learning, and about this idea of being a continuous learner. You might have heard of Bill Gates. That's the man who said that quote. But I think it just summarizes the fact that learning is a lifelong process, and learning can be fun, especially when you tokenize it with a little bit of Piper coin. How about that to bring us home?
There you go. I love it.
Well, I can tell you, I'm telling you that go ahead and buy the 2nd edition of Epic Content Marketing. I need a reverb. Epic Content Marketing. Mr. Brian Piper is the co-author. If you want to connect with the DAO that he's a part of, ed3dao.com. You can find out more about how to work with him, how to engage him, how to learn from him at brianwpiper.com. The W is important, unless, of course, you're trying to connect with him on Instagram, in which case it's all about the flash pipe. No drugs were taken in the making of this episode. Brian, it was an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, Joseph. It's always wonderful talking with you. Love your show.
It's been a hell of a journey in terms of us meeting for the first time, and here we are together. Welcome to the Authors Club. I'll tell you who else is a member of the Authors Club. It's none other than Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back on Friday with a friend of the show, our resident philosopher, Tom Morris, who has a new book out. Tom might be getting his his smoking jacket, because if it isn't his 5th time, it's definitely his 4th. Pulizzi's on 2 or 3. Piper, you need to be back when you write Skydive Marketing. I'm out. I'll see you on Friday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.